I'm audible to everyone.
Yep.
At the outset, Dr. Dholakia, Dr. Bilare, and Rahul, thank you for being on this session with me as well. And good afternoon to all my fellow students. Um, my chat today with you is going to be structured in the following way. First, I'll be starting to speak about a few trends that KPMG has come up with in a report that it published in May, just last month, pertaining to different aspects in HR and learning and development. So I'll be first talking about those trends so that you know what to expect down the line in the next couple of months. The second thing that I'm going to be speaking to you about is certain competencies which are expected from the industry, specifically by the HR team, from you when you pass out and when you're joining the workforce and the industry. The third thing that I'm going to be talking about is some specific expectations from students along with competencies. And then finally, I'll be capping off my session with some tips pertaining to how can you better prepare for your placements. So that's the way in which my chat is going to be structured. So to start off with certain trends, so according to a KPMG report, which was published in May last month, which spanned about 315 organizations across 20 different industry verticals. It's a fairly exhaustive report, but specifically I want to highlight a few pillars or a few aspects of that report to you. One is the trend pertaining to employee engagement. Now, typically in most organizations, employee engagement is limited to the view of celebrating birthdays, organizing sports in different organizations, right? But employee engagement is a far more wider topic than that. Specifically, what the report says is that 75% of organizations, as a result of COVID-19, have now redefined their communication strategy completely. Earlier, what used to be a norm is you used to have your weekly team huddles or team meetings. You used to have your 6 monthly or annual performance reviews or town hall meetings with the top management. Now everything is becoming replaced and everything is now moving from a face-to-face medium to a virtual medium online. And that's why you have tools like Zoom, Google Hangouts, MS Teams, which are now being used increasingly by the workforce today. Virtual team meetings, which earlier was limited to companies which have a very diverse workforce, is now becoming commonplace. So now, earlier it used to be the case that unless you're working in a huge organization where your boss probably is sitting 10,000 miles away from you, then you used to have Skype meetings or virtual meetings. But otherwise, the assumption is that a face-to-face communication is always better because, quite rightly, there are so many things that you can express when you meet a person face-to-face. That may not be happening anytime soon because now virtual meetings will increasingly become the new norm, so to speak. The third point that the employee engagement pillar of the KPMG report mentions is now a lot of organizations are slowly moving away from customized pulse surveys to AI enabled pulse surveys, so artificial intelligence enabled pulse surveys, which is now becoming a very important trend because now it is entirely possible. Because companies like TCS, for example, have gone on record saying that we will probably continue with 75% of our workforce continuing to work from home. And that is in fact going to be much more cost effective for us. So if that's the case, and if you have a company like that, wherein about 75% of your workforce is going to be working from home, if that is the case, then you obviously need to ensure that your employees are engaged and that they are fully contributing to the best of their ability at the workplace. So that's one. The second trend which I want to mention to you is from a hiring perspective, which probably will be more interesting to you. 66% of organizations have reported in that report that they have deferred or indefinitely suspended their hiring plans. Second is 30% of the organizations have mentioned that they are now going to be headcount budgets. And the third point, which I also want to mention, is the rise of the gig economy or gig workforce, as we used to call it, is likely to be seeing an upswing, which means that contract hiring is likely to be more pronounced in the months to come. Now, I don't want you to get alarmed when I say that 66% have reported that they have deferred or postponed their hiring plans. Because like Dr. Dholakia rightly mentioned, in every crisis, there is an opportunity. And that's exactly the reason why we are speaking here today, to see how can we make best of this crisis which has come to us. So that's the first part which I wanted to talk about, which is trends. The second part which I now want to speak to you about is certain competencies which will be expected from you when you join the workforce. The following 6 competencies come to mind specifically. So one is emotional intelligence.
Adit?
Right. So emotional intelligence is essentially being aware. It is entirely possible that the rise of emotional intelligence is going to be an important competency regardless. The second important competency that I see is collaborating virtually, because of COVID-19, it is entirely possible that many organizations, and even within the same organization, you may have different teams who may be sitting across not just different locations, but also different geographies altogether. So collaborating virtually is going to be an important competency. Third, leading virtually. The definition of leadership changes from organization to organization. And I'm sure that if I ask you, I'm sure each one of you will have a different take on it as well. But what I mean specifically in terms of leading virtually is now it is going to be becoming an increasing reality wherein a people manager or a team leader who has his team sitting in different locations, which earlier used to be very convenient for him or her because his team used to be nearby. So you could always physically go and meet the person who reports to you. Now, because of COVID, it is possible that some portion of your team may be not coming to office at all. So therefore, the challenge on people managers is going to be more pronounced today, because now you have certain people who are coming to office and certain people who continue to work from home. So leading virtually is going to be an important competency down the line. The fourth is learning agility. The reason is for that is very simple. Learning agility is the hunger which an employee displays for learning and unlearning at the workplace. So learning agility is going to be very important, because earlier, prior to COVID, what used to happen is the focus of getting employees trained used to be conveniently given on the learning and development team in any organization. That is soon going to change, and now the accountability for learning is now being put back on the employees. So let me give you a specific example of what we did in our organization to ensure learning agility. So after the COVID situation happened, and then of course everybody was working from home, many of our employees are still working from home. We started an initiative wherein we asked all our employees to refer to MOOC websites, massively open online courses, like you have your Coursera, Udemy, Unacademy, etc. So there are a dime a dozen MOOC websites out there. So we asked our employees with a specific list that go to these websites, start taking a course. Even if it is paid up to a certain limit, you can take the course, complete it, and start with the next course. So therefore, the key learning here was that we transferred the accountability of learning back to the employees rather than L&D taking the complete ownership of this function. And this was a key learning, because employees, as a result, realized that learning may not always happen in a classroom. And that's entirely true, but that for the foreseeable future, classroom training sessions may not happen at all. So learning will now have to happen through these mediums like webinars. They will have to happen through bite-sized learning. They can happen by conducting a book review session, for all you know. So that is one. The fifth competency, which is going to be very important for all of you, is accountability. Because the logic is simple. When you're working from home, the temptation of logging into your laptop or computer later than usual is likely to be high, because you're not physically going to the office, and therefore you tend to take it a little lightly. And that's where personal accountability will be really tested. And the sixth competency is listening. When you are in a face-to-face meeting with somebody else, there's a social pressure, so to speak, of listening carefully to the person who is speaking to you. In a virtual environment, listening takes on a different route altogether. So you're not always sure if internet is an issue, if the problem is with the machine, the problem is something else. So you can and listening again has a very different connotation in the industry sometimes, because there's a well-known anecdote that says that we don't really listen, we listen with an intent to reply. And there's a big difference between the two. So active listening is not happening until you have fully understood and confirmed that whether your understanding is correct. So that's the second part of my chat with you today pertaining to competencies. Coming to specific expectations that HR would probably have from you before you join the industry. The first and foremost is self-awareness. the reason for us is when an organization comes to your premises for campus placements, one of the most cliched but favorite questions, regardless, that will get asked, and I'm sure it is still asked, is what are your strengths? The time has come for all of us to move away from the cliched answers that we give to HR people or business people during the time of interviews, right? So the time has come for all of us to actually take a step forward and actually find out what our strengths are. And that is where I want to mention to you that there are a variety of psychometric assessments out there in the market which can help you understand what your specific strengths are. Once you've understood that, you can be in a much better position to actually mention to the recruiter or to the interviewer what your strengths are and what is it that you're bringing to the table. So with that as a background, focusing on your strengths and knowing what your strengths are is going to be a very important aspect. The second key expectation from you is business acumen. The reason why you are doing an MBA program or a PGDM program is because you have, or you should have, a better understanding of how business operates. And that's where I'm indirectly alluding to Rahul as well. And I'm sure that he will explain this in greater detail. But essentially, business acumen is understanding how a business works at a big picture level. Now, typically the understanding is that if I'm, for example, an HR professional, I don't really need to take too much pains in understanding how business works because that's someone else's job. That's not true at all. Nowadays, the importance of understanding business at a big picture level is very important. And therefore, I would like to recommend to all of you one book to read if you have not read it already. That book is called Seeing the Big Picture. It's written by a guy called Kevin Cope. And I would advise all of you to go through it because I do believe it will help you in your interviews as well. The third expectation from you as students is financial literacy. Now, there have been studies after studies published in India which says that the level of financial literacy that we as Indians have is staggeringly low. So typically what happens is that once you start drawing your first salary, you suddenly get a feeling that I am now getting money and I don't know what to do with it. Now, if COVID has taught us anything, it is the fact that no matter where you are working or no matter how cushy your job is, your job can never really truly be secure, which means that you will have to make plans for potentially, it's always good to be prepared, but potentially, what will you do if you were to be laid off or if your company was to shut down tomorrow? So therefore, having a safe house or having a kitty or saving up for an umbrella for a rainy day, as it is called, that how will you meet your expenses if you were to not have an employment tomorrow is going to be of paramount importance. There are plenty of online courses out there which will help you to get financial literacy at a basic level. I'm not asking you to become chartered accountants. I'm not asking you to become financial analysts, but I am asking you to make sure that you understand the difference between, for example, investing in equity versus investing in debt. And this is not the job of only those who have taken up finance as their specialization. This is your job, regardless of what your specialization is. So that's the third point of financial literacy. The fourth point is learning agility, which is also a competency which I mentioned. Like I said, at the risk of repeating myself earlier, the expectation was that you learn best in a classroom when you have a trainer standing in front of you, delivering a training program. And as a trainer myself, I can assure you that yes, there is a certain degree of importance that classroom sessions have, face-to-face sessions have. But now, given that things are moving virtually, the responsibility of upgrading yourself lies entirely on you, especially after you join the workforce, because you cannot let the organization believe or dictate that you need to be sent to X training program. The responsibility really has to lie on you. So imagine that if you were to join any organization tomorrow, it goes without saying that you should have, before joining the organization, completed a training on something like MS Excel or PowerPoint. Because the organization nowadays will not have that bandwidth or mindset or even the patience to wait for you to get trained on Excel or PowerPoint so that you can make an effective presentation. So that's not going to happen. So the responsibility of upgrading yourself really now lies with you if you want to do well. And the fifth expectation from you is something called as self-leadership. So it's an extension of what I said earlier, which is learning agility. Now, when you go to an organization, now there have been organizations which have been hiring, and where the person has joined the organization virtually. His laptop or desktop has been shipped to him by Swiggy or Dunzo, and work has started. His ID card, his visiting cards, everything has been shipped to him, and work has started. So the perspective of taking self responsibility for your outcomes is going to become more important down the line. And this is where I would like to recommend another book to you called as Self Leadership and the 1 Minute Manager. This is a very simple book which will tell you why is it important to take personal responsibility for whatever it is that you're doing. Because every human being goes through 4 stages of development. This book will give you an overview of how do you go about it. And coming to the final point of my chat with you today, how do you specifically prepare for placements given that the COVID situation is existing? So at the risk of repeating myself, I want to re-emphasize that self-awareness, specifically taking up some form of psychometric assessments. There are plenty out there. I don't want to name any particularly on this platform, but there are plenty of psychometric assessments out there which can help you improve your self-awareness. Because the last thing that an HR person wants to hear during a campus placement round of an interview is, what are your strengths? My strengths are that I'm very hardworking, I'm very sincere, I'm very loyal. No. If those are your strengths, I would rather not be speaking to you. So you have to give specific strengths that you have displayed in your personal life, which potentially could spill over into professional life as well at the workplace. So specific examples of your strengths, where have you used them? What kind of result did you get? Is something that psychometric assessments can help you with. That's one. Second is, all of you or most of you are MBA students, which means that if you are MBA students and if you are business students, you should be reading logically about business or management books. Because if you're not, I'm not saying that I'm not discounting the importance of other book genres, of course not. But given that you are in the nascent stage of your development and you are just about to enter or have already entered the corporate sector, it is high time that you start picking up a good book, any book pertaining to business or management, read and speak about it. Because ultimately, remember that readers are leaders. Because, and this is the point that I really want to draw and emphasize on at this point of time, because the requirement for getting a person who is self-aware has never been higher before. And the third and the final point which I want to mention is, I'm sure that most of you must be doing this already, is the importance of being active on LinkedIn. Because today, most of the things have become virtual. It is entirely possible that getting a placement opportunity may be happening through LinkedIn. So it is important to be having an active presence there. Typically, what happens is the first thing that we do after waking up in the morning is that we check our Facebook account or check our WhatsApp. If you're not being active on LinkedIn at least once a day, if you're not connecting to 5 new people at least once a day, you're not doing justice to yourself. So essentially, that's where the importance of personal brand comes into the picture. So in summary, those were the 3 things that I wanted to suggest to you in terms of how can you better prepare for your placements. With that as a background, I would like to conclude my session. Thank you so much.